So this is a video that I really wasn't planning on making, mostly because it's a heat gun. Who cares? I was just gonna buy it and throw it in my van, and I needed to use it. I actually was installing. Here, let's put the product right there. And yeah, I was installing sill guards on my pickup truck, and it's cold out, and something you might not know this, but if you're ever trying to put adhesive decals or anything like that on a cold metal smooth material, you heat it up a little bit, and it just makes it stick better, just like it would on a nice sunny day. And yeah, I was kind of taken back about how ineffective it was as far as that goes. So yeah, let's reconfigure some stuff and take a closer look at my first disappointment of 2023. So let's get into the meat of it. Like I said, there's not too much going on here. It's just a heat gun, for God's sake. High and low switch on the top. Low temp, 550 degrees Fahrenheit, which is roughly 290 Celsius, and 990 degrees Fahrenheit on high, 530 degrees Celsius. So, like I said, not too much as far as that goes. You have a locking trigger, which is basically an upside down version of what Glock uses. Push that in and you hold that, and then you got your hands-free technique for, setting stuff on fire inadvertently. Now, what basically comes with it, if you buy just a bare tool, I don't know if they sell this with a battery, but whatever, you get this little kind of heat deflector. We'll get into what I'm going to use that for later on in the video. And you got this other kind of heat spreader thing, I guess, for spreading out the output of the guy. So for home gamer use, I guess we would call it, this has always been my go-to. I've had this for forever, as long as I can remember. And I'd use it for things like, you got adhesive tile you got to pull up, things like that. Nothing too fancy, but this thing, I mean, it's basically a handheld space heater. And it does, what's that say there, 500 degrees Fahrenheit, 300 degrees C. So, I mean, but this thing puts out the heat, mostly because it's the size of the fan. So it might not get as hot as this one, but the volume, I guess BTUs, I guess would be the better word, this thing puts out, it does great. And to be fair to this thing, I wasn't expecting it to be comparable to this. I mean, just the math alone, this is what, 120 volts, 12 amps, and this is 20 volts at, I don't know, probably 5 amps. So, like I said, to be fair, I wasn't expecting it to compete with this. So let's get into what I'm actually going to use this for at work. Like I said, if you don't know, I'm a field mechanic, and I really, this is kind of more of a construction tool, I'm assuming. And oh look, I left a teaser for a future video out in the open on my bench. Shameless plug aside. Yeah, so basically what I use this type of thing for on a daily basis, if I could be so bold to say so, is just basically melt and heat shrink down, something like this. I make a cable, I heat it up, and then it does its thing. In the past, my go-to would be the old blue tip wrench that we all carry, or I have in my van for those situations where I can't use an open flame. I have something like this in my van. It's just a small handheld 110 job, and those two options work fine. Let's be honest though, if I'm doing a big old battery cable and I'm putting heat shrink on it, a 3,000 pound battery that creates hydrogen gas, it's probably not a good idea to keep an open flame around it. All that aside, I mean, it's also, some places I just can't have an open flame, and in that case I got to look for an outlet so I can use my little 110 heat gun. So let's get some some measuring type tools out here and actually test the effectiveness of this thing. I got a relatively new Klein Tools multimeter here. It just so happens to come with a thermocouple. Is that what these things are called? I can't remember. But yeah, it measures temperature. Now apparently this just, I've never used this before. So we'll be testing two things at once. Like that. There you go. See, we got a little backlight. Isn't that cool? Hopefully you can see that. I think you can. Alright, so we'll start off with, let's kind of move some things around here. We'll play with that a little bit later. Again, hopefully you can see that. I think it'll be alright. We got a big old 6 amp hour battery. Flex volt might be better. I mean, it's the same voltage, so I really don't see it making that much of a difference. Yeah, so try to figure out a way of doing this without setting anything on fire. And that backlight on kind of makes it a little bit more visible. All right, and we'll go on low. Low, like I said before, they're claiming 550 degrees Fahrenheit. I think, I don't know, what's that? 4 inches away from the nozzle seems like a fair place that you'd be using this. Alright, that range, it seems like it's kind of leveling off at about 320. So let's kind of move it a little bit closer. Alright, well, it didn't seem to me like it got any higher than 450 degrees. And that's right against the nozzle, which isn't a realistic way of using this in my my personal opinion. So, yeah, let's see how it does on high. Again, we'll start off at a reasonable range, and then we'll see if it actually gets to the 990. This probe is only rated for 1,000, so if it starts getting higher than 990, I'm going to pull it away so I don't break it. You can see it's got a little bit more RPMs on the fan. Well, now we're at the 550 range. Alright, it seems like it's kind of leveled off there at 640, 650-ish. Move it right up against it. Alright, looks like 800, when you kind of scooch it around, is the best it's going to do. And I don't know what it is now. But yeah, this was fresh off the charger when I started this video. So, like I said earlier, the only reason I really bought this was the only reason. I would have kind of liked to have made it a useful tool that I could use around the house. It seems like I'll be sticking with the old 110 hair dryer there. But the main reason I'll be using this at work, and that is to make battery cable ends, or to crimp on battery cable ends. This particular one is, these are called SP350 battery cables. 350 stands for the amount of amps it'll carry, and this is pretty much the high end of what I'll be using this for. Now, this particular one, I was actually just kind of testing it out. Hold on one second. TEMCo, the people who sent me that toe jack, kind of as a thank you for making that video, they sent me this product here. Again, not sponsored. They were just kind of like, hey, that was cool that you did that. Here's another tool. This thing works pretty good. I was just kind of testing it out on this style cable. It's more intended for these style lugs, the smaller guys, and how I normally would make these, I got the hammer style one. You stick the cable in there and you beat on it. It works. It's kind of sloppy, but I'm kind of happy with the results of this style cable with this tool. Nice thing about this thing too is that I'll stick it in a vise, and if I got like 4 cables to make for like a pallet jack or something like that, just stick it in there and just kind of do assembly line type deal. So yeah, this is kind of cool. Back to the video. So yeah, this is the extreme of what I would be using this for as far as heat shrink goes. So let's see if it'll actually do it. Hopefully I could do this on camera without setting the camera on fire. Let's see what the heat feels like. Yeah, that's not too bad, surprisingly. I was being sarcastic there. So yeah, let's stick this thing in the deal and see if it'll shrink some heat shrink in a reasonable amount of time. You know, once it gets hot, it kind of starts really chooching. I can say that a torch, albeit a little bit more dangerous, is a lot faster. Well, there you go. I mean, it didn't blow me away, but I mean, it did the job, and it did it in a reasonable amount of time. So, yeah. So, there we go. That is the DeWalt DCE530 heat gun, I guess is what we'll call it. Will it do what I need it to do? Yeah, it seems like it'll be more than capable for doing heat shrink. Just as good for the big stuff as the small stuff, so that's kind of a bonus for me. Does it do what it says it does? No, to be honest with you. I mean, as far as my testing goes, anybody who watches Torque Test channel, sometimes these tool companies get a little creative with how they spec out their stuff. But yeah, I mean, you saw it. I couldn't get this thing to get up to the temperature that it was claiming, even right on the nozzle, which is still hot. And yeah, so I mean, this comes down to one of those things. People always call tools overpriced or things overpriced, and my personal opinion on that matter is that if you buy it, it's not overpriced. So I bought it. But I mean, considering what you can get for I've seen these range from 110 as much as 130. So if you put that into DeWalt's lineup, as far as tools go and their prices, I mean, you're looking at an oscillating tool, you know, a small 1/4-inch impact you could get for that price, a decent drill for that price. So I mean, considering almost dropped it, considering all the engineering and manufacturing that's involved in those style tools, whereas you have this where it's basically just a switch, a heating element, a motor controller, and some computer stuff in there to make sure you don't cook your battery. Yeah, there's not much going on here. So yeah, tool companies have their loss leaders, and then they have their profitable stuff, and this is definitely one of the ones that they're making money off of. So why would you buy this? It's because you need a cordless heat gun, and you already have the DeWalt batteries, so you just go out and buy this and bite the bullet. I'm not sure how the 18-volt Milwaukee, which would probably be this thing's best competitor, is, but I mean, I couldn't imagine it could be much better. I mean, considering just the power source alone is limiting it. Now we got, I will mention, speaking of batteries, 6 amp hour battery. I mean, it's got to be a must. It'll run off of the little 1.5 and 2.5 amp hour batteries, but you better have a stack of them, because this thing, it just smokes even these batteries. So yeah, keep that in mind. Like I said, sometimes you got to bite the bullet and just go with what's available, and that was the situation here. So yeah, like I said, I'm not disappointed. I've wasted money on tools that I've never used, and this I'll at least use. I know that much. So yeah, there you go. Anyone who was thinking I was possibly sponsored by any of these tool companies, you know now that I am not, because I'm finally shitting on one. The reason I usually don't shit on tools is because I research them and I kind of know what I'm getting into before I buy them. And yeah, this thing, like I said, it is what it is. And yeah, that's the funny thing too. You see, I'm going to kind of go off on a tangent here with these tool review guys. If there's usually 3 tiers, in case you didn't know. There's a tier where you get a tool that you don't keep, which is ridiculous considering how much money they make off of these tools. You don't keep it, and you give a review, and if you give too many bad reviews, they stop sending you tools to try out. And then there's the next tier where they actually send you the tool, you get to keep it, and if you don't give it a good review, they stop sending you tools. And the last tier is they send you a tool, and I mean, you're up there, these channels with the millions of followers or millions of subscribers, they'll give you the tool, and of course they expect a good review, and they give you a little bit of cash to do the review. And yeah, I'm not one of those channels, and you shouldn't take tool advice from those channels. Guys like Project Farm, Torque Test channel, those cats, they buy the stuff themselves, and they're not afraid to tell you when something's garbage, which is insane. As much money as, like I said, they make off of these tools from social media people showing them. You know, you think they'd be a little less cheap with sending out tools for reviews, but I don't know. They're in business, and I'm not, and I'm just a lowly YouTuber talking into a camera. So yeah, that kind of irritates me about that whole situation, because when you're trying to find a decent review on something, halfway through it you realize that it's just a paid advertisement for the tool from an independent YouTuber. And like I said, it kind of makes it hard to get through all the noise of getting reviews on things. So that tangent aside, any questions, leave them down in the thing. Possibly, like I said, I'm a mechanic, so there might be a use for this in construction of one of the construction style trades that I'm overlooking. But sort of heating up adhesive and heat shrink, that's pretty much the only thing I could really think of to use this for. So if you got a better use for this thing, let me know down in the comments. I'd be kind of curious. I might actually be able to use it for that. But like I said, as for now, it is what it is. I bought it. I'm sure it'll last forever. And there you go. So yeah, comments in the thing. Thanks for watching as always. And there you go.